billion of your choice. We have Elizabethans bellowing next door. Should keep things entertaining a little bit. Yoga is nothing really. Yoga is just all this. Just notice what it really is and see that it's not your pathetic imaginings. I don't mean your pathetic imaginings. I mean all imaginings are pathetic intrinsically. Reality is so much wilder and more amazing explicitly than think. So our thoughts act like anchors, try to pull and hold back from this wild vitality that we are, that this is. Anyway, we covered a lot of ground yesterday. So what's on your mind? How did it sit with you? Yeah.
Yesterday you said that there's two dimensions. One is the real one that we that we're inventing to describe what we sense, and there's many more.
Yes.
Would you care to say anything more about the other one?
I was talking about those two dimensions just as a rule of thumb. It can seem that way to explore this stuff. You'll notice that the mind is continually spinning out its version of things, similar to its usual version of things. And meanwhile, the actual vibrant of experience is continually new, continually fresh, continually unexpected, and continually unpredictable. And so there seems to be these kind of two versions that is present that are more or less concurrently. Their dimensions. I use the word dimensions somewhat haphazardly, and I apologize for that if it's not clear. By dimensions, I mean any sort of a range of experiential characteristic or textures that seems to have some kind of pseudo-coherence within it. Like, for example,
layers?
Sorry?
Layers?
You can think of it like that. Like, for example, the visual fields could be thought of as a dimension. Yeah. Within the visual field, it's more or less consistent with being recognizable as whatever it is, seemingly. But then the dimension of hearing is another dimension, let's say. Dimensions, there's thought dimensions, there's imagination dimensions, there's dream dimensions. And if you're careful and subtle and you explore your experience, you'll discover many, many more dimensions of very, very subtle flavors and energies and vibes and what have you. We don't have human language to indicate these things or describe them or label them, but they are actual. They are immediately present in your experience, and they're actually quite obvious if you relax and let yourself notice that. Typically, consensus reality mindset, it makes us censor our experience, so we only tend to acknowledge what we can talk about or think about. So, which makes us very sensory world oriented and thought world oriented, and things like subtle vibes and auras and flavors and all of that, it's just written off as noise in the system somehow, or downplayed, or it's held to be just imaginary or nothing, or distraction or something. In fact, if you take a careful, sensitive inventory, you'll notice that there's no limit to the range of these different regions of flavors of experiential texture. Literally just no limit, a literal infinity, and it goes on forever. It has no boundary, no limit. no maximum degree of fineness or coarseness. No maximum degree of anything. It's vast, vast, vast. So, and this is the actuality of what your experience really is, and it's possible to notice. The only thing that makes it difficult to notice is our mindsets, our interpretive frameworks that things is, well, this is real and this isn't. This is relevant. This isn't. This matters. This doesn't. Come that way. Experience doesn't come with the visual field doesn't come with a label saying this matters, and this, the realm of subtle vibes doesn't come with a label saying this doesn't. It just is. And if it's all equally valuable, it's all equally real. Closely, you'll discover it's all versions of the same thing. I mean, what I call radiant presence. Or, in some traditions, one might say it's all Shakti. It's all the unified field of physics, or you can sort of throw your de jure on it, but of course none of those capture it. But it doesn't need to be captured because it's right here.
Would those constructs that describe what we see and whatnot be the same sort of things that vision from sound? I'm sure some of us have seen music.
There's distinction, seeming distinction, but no separation. Everything coexists in its own dimension, but all the dimensions, harmonics of each other, are harmonics of each other, and very nonlinear and non-structural and non-spatial in terms of their orientation with each other.
Oh, so that's the kind of stuff that keeps everything in its own like frequency bands or something like that?
Well, the idea that it keeps it that way, but it isn't really kept that way. It is what it is. Everything is fractal harmonics of everything else, you could say. and the point is, check it out for yourself. The idea, it's actually, you look and see for yourself what it's like. We missed yesterday. A brief 4-hour recapitulation of everything.
That's what I was going to say. We gave him the minutes.
Okay.
I guess this is with all the senses. There's dimensions within the senses too, like thinking. I can get lost in a story or a visual, and I can see the visuals and I can believe in them and all that. But then at the same time, there's a dimension of thought that it's always full. It's always full of streaming energy, and what you refer to as northern lights. They sometimes seeing the lights of it, but that's different than the content. I mean, it's very. I mean, it's just like the dots are different than seeing Peter in the room. It's like so. There's a more, I guess. I don't know. I guess a sensorial dimension to each of to everything.
Well, there's infinite dimensions within dimensions, and the dimensions are all made up of other dimensions, and the little dimensions are made up of little dimensions, and the little dimensions are all made up of big dimensions, and it's absolutely nonlinear. Try to talk about the structure of it in terms of things like dimensions is just evocative to give you a jumping off point.
Where would you like it?
Oh, thank you so much. That's right.
Here, there's a picture.
We should probably have to go to the
Lots and lots of sugar.
So, they aren't necessarily actually dimensions. That just is a way of talking about the vastness of the apparent sort of textural presence. No matter where you look, you will find subdimensions, and you look at those, and you find more subdimensions. And it opens with no bottom. It's an infinite continuous It's an infinite fractal continuum.
When I relax with that, then I can sometimes feel like that it opens up like that, but sometimes it feels very hard to switch gears into just even going from content of thought to the sensation of thought.
I'm sorry, I was distracted, but no, very rousing.
Let's hear that sound when Stan speaks.
We should have a herald follow you around.
Was that an example of fractal harmonics?
Everything's an example of fractal harmonics.
Well, what I was saying when I was just tooting my horn there.
You're lazy. You're supposed to toot your own horn.
No, I didn't. That was my own horn. I know that. What was I saying? But it's
I lost too. Lost is what we got.
yeah. No, when I relax.
In fact, and this is not just a joke. It's a great joke. Just a joke. Yoga is the science of everything. Just where am I? What am I? What's going on? Both kinds of fun. Sorry, I'm lost.
No, just, I guess I was just talking about switching gears.
Yeah. Well, the other and switching gears is an aspect of experience. If you look at it, you'll notice that experience seems to generate attention or focuses of attention, what have you, somewhat as randomly, and these focuses are always sort of dancing around and moving between this and that, and you're some hearing the sound, and you're thinking a thought, and you're feeling, scratch on an itch on your butt, and you around and moving, and just like, and you see something out of the corner of your eye, and if you really look at your experience, you'll notice it's not just sort of steady, stable thing sitting there. It's like, it's like a, what is life? It's like this.
Gave you all these. I went looking at astral plane, and it was why am I doing this?
Yeah, well, but you answered my question. If it's interesting, then do it. Other.
So there's no growth advantage, do you think?
No, there's no growth advantage to anything. The point is the only point of investigation is to see what it is. Once you see what it is, then you do what you like. You don't need to see anymore, And then, if you want to keep investigating, if that's your idea of a fun way to spend your time, have at it. If you want to hang out and get stoned, have at it. If you want to, whatever. Pick your indulgence, of choice. I know, you're a wise man. I defer to your wisdom.
The idea of this,
yeah,
and thou art this,
right,
and everything is this.
Right.
Like most of what you're talking from is a mix of thou art this and everything is this. And the reason I'm saying that is describing what you're sensing, all the levels and so forth. You're that's that kind of middle level. And then, but you're also talking from the highest level.
There's no distinction.
Well,
There's only one level.
You're at a high enough level to see that.
That's the point of yoga. But anyone can be at a high enough level to see that if you investigate and look. You know, there can seem to be many different levels, and you can seem that they can each have a very different implication in terms of what you are, what the relationship between you, if any, and anything else, if any, are. All of these different implications, none of them are true, and none of them are more true than any other ones. They're only provisionally true, depending upon the perspective of observation. There's only one thing, there's only one level, and yet it looks as if it is an infinity of levels and an infinity of things, and they're all different, and they are coherent with each other. The one thing that there is that it looks like that. It's not coherent. It doesn't come together nice and neat package. It's all over the place. It's sloppy. It's vast.
So how did you grow to this level that you're at? No, seriously, did you use meditation? Did you use prayer? Did you use?
I use everything. I'm a maniac. But it's not about using. It's really not about using. It's just, it happens. It happens if it happens. Thank you so much. You know, I mean, that's what we're talking about here, is I'm presenting potential opportunities or suggestions to explore what you are. And as you discover what you are, to a broader, more inclusive, comprehensive perspective, fine with what you are. And ultimately, you will discover you're everything, literally. The case. It's not a matter of achieving some different new condition. It's just a matter of noticing what is already the case, and has always been the case, and cannot not be the case. You know, and you know, it's a lot of spirituality. There's talk about practices and doing this and blah blah blah. You know, spiritual and all of this. You know, your entire experience is your practice. Always has been. You know, how did you get here? You got here by everything that ever happened to you, everything you ever did, everything you ever engaged in. Failures and pains and pleasures and God knows what, however you want to qualify it. And you know, you can't. Well, so what did it for you? You know, it's like what? It's, you know, life is the spiritual practice, and life is the result of the spiritual practice. But and more specifically in terms of yoga, it's possible to discover more and more refinedly what life really is, as one gets to enjoy that fact, because it happens of what this is really, really cool. It's really nice. It is basically pure pleasure. It is pure bliss. I mean, all the, you know, the teachings say that, and it's literally true, and not in a simplistic, stupid, list out kind of a way. But it is, and it's really fortunate that happens to be the case. It's really nice that this is what it is, you know, and it's really nice that you already are that, and that it's possible to notice that fact, and then you get to really of it, and it's just absolutely luscious.
I hear a conflict in something you just said.
Mm-hmm.
You said what you're trying to do is help us, and yet I haven't heard. I heard from you yesterday and so far today is about how to see that, just to investigate.
Yes, that's how.
So, investigate. Are there particular ways to investigate that open that up rather than
You mean-
investigating science?
Yeah. Oh no, not science. I'm not talking
Yeah,
about science.
I
I'm
know
not
you.
talking about rational investigation. By experiencing intelligently, or let's say, experience is an engagement. Business with form, if you want to be simplistic about it. But it can also be, or it is also, and can be engaged with as more or less intelligently, let's say. So it's possible to be with one's experience stupidly, and it's possible to be with one's experience more intelligently. And intelligence in this case means, or let's say, includes sensitivity, includes subtlety, includes artfulness, includes an intelligent assimilation and feedback of learning, where you notice something and you pay more attention to it and you learn more about it, which enables you to engage with it more artfully, to notice more, and so on and so forth. And irrationally, simply in the moment of experiencing. And it doesn't matter what in particular you're experiencing. So there can be lots of, I can give lots of simple instructions to sort of prime the pump and get started. One of the best is small portion of the wall that has nothing on it. That's very difficult to do in this room.
Ceiling.
That ceiling's pretty good, but it's not bright enough. Bright's a little better. How about right up here? See that sort of pencil drawing and one of these early paintings. Just think about a an 8-inch or 10-inch circle of wall. Gaze at it, don't gaze at it concentratedly, or with great effort. Just relax. Slowly. Forget it's a wall. The experience of whatever this is you're experiencing. And you'll begin to notice that it starts dancing around. It starts to show up as all sorts of patterns. It starts moving. It starts breathing. All sorts of things. If you do that for about 5 minutes, you'll think someone dosed you with acid. Simple. This is very simple. And if you know, and so when you first look at the wall, it's just a wall. I'm looking at it's a wall. It's a blank wall. It's boring. Experience of that actually is. It's not. It's amazing. So right there is a very simple example talking about. And in fact, all of your experience is actually like that. It's completely dynamic and sparkling and multidimensional and breathing. This is not just a dull mechanical phenomena. It's a phenomena of the very nature of whatever energy the experience is constituted of.
See that more and more every day. But I got to the point of I am that.
Cool. Don't worry about it. It's all in the seeing. Do the seeing, and the seeing does the work for you. It does the heavy lifting. It's absolutely guaranteed to engage in intelligent seeing without it transforming you. Now, it may transform you slightly. It may transform you in ways you don't acknowledge or recognize, but it is transformative. And better yet, this is the magic secret of yoga. It's cumulative. To go back and redo something. Any moment of noticing, of being with your experience subtly and sensitively, ratchets you up a notch, in some sense. And the next time, even if it's a year later, ratchets you up another notch.
That's helpful. Thanks.
Actually, like that. It's mechanical. I mean, it's insanely. And you don't need to make sense of anything. You just let the nature of what it is do all the work. They just kicking back and tripping on their experience. Really. But you do it intelligently. You do it sensitively. You don't do it in a settling into some fantasy of numbness. You do it you sort of lean into it. Gently, and you learn how to do it by doing it. You learn the artfulness of how to position with it, how much passivity or activity or what have you to sort of bring to it by it's like riding a bicycle or something. At first you can't do it, or and eventually you get it and it's second nature. Anywhere, start small, start somewhere where it's easy, and don't worry about where it's hard. So you go to some kinds of experience, and you're immediately swamped in interpretive frameworks and conceptualization. Like any place where it's easy, get a little oh wow, little wow factor, and then just let it go. Your life and doing your stuff, and sooner or later again, in a minute or an hour or a month or a year, you'll do it again, and there'll be another little oh wow, and you let go of it, and you drift back into your life. That's the cycle. It was like that. Leads to realization and liberation.
Practice every day, right? Just look at a blank wall or look at something and just kind of allow it to open up to you.
Yes, but if you do it as a practice too regularly, dull and become conceptual. It's spontaneous and playful. Do it randomly and when the whim strikes, than to do it sort of doggedly and perseveringly. Well, it's 10 o'clock, time to go stare at the wall. That's liable to just reinforce more kinds of. Sexuality is absolutely it has nothing to do with process or procedure or structure or doing this and doing this and doing this and it leads to this. It's not like that at all. And so this, in the flavor in which it exists, with it is liable to be the most fruitful. So being loose, easy, and playful with it. You'll be sitting sometime and you'll be looking at your computer or whatever, and all of a sudden you'll just like the light glinting out the window or something, and just go and like I say, and then you'll drift off. Fine, do it. Just let it go. So this is very easy, just in the course of experience, and you'll find after a while it gets addictive because it's fun. It's not like labor where I have to do my practice now. It's like, wow, this is I get paid to do this. I mean, you don't. You don't get paid. But that would be nice too. Maybe you could figure out a way to get paid.
I've found that
that too.
Yeah. When you say, some of the Zoom meetings, at least when they've been like barn burners, when you said that the reason you've always said, well, interpretive frameworks are their obstacle, but you said something the other week that was just, you said the reason why we don't look closer is because we think we're going to see the same thing. And that just blew me. That is like, oh, okay. I mean, it wasn't like I'm fighting against this thing. It's because the sort of and then also just pay attention to the full field of experience. Well, then observing the full field of experience at all, and that's what getting lost is.
Yeah.
Because then all of a sudden that just takes you away like surfing, or washes that away, which is really.
There's no observer. There's no observed. There's just presence. Miraculous presence. It's just here. Here it is.
Yeah.
Doesn't go away. Looking at it, you can't find it. Where is it that's being seen? Yes, that is here.
And I've also had fun as not like a practice, but like taking a phrase of yours and then spending a little bit longer on it. Like, this is already the finish line. really a
Yeah.
fucker.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's like, whoa. I mean,
I try to concentrate a lot of potency in a few words. I'm an efficiency freak.
but it's good not just to hear them. It's good kind of like, okay, what does that mean? It's like, oh wow, that means this is it. This too, you know.
Yeah, no, it totally is. If any of you aren't familiar, I can commend you Stan's book. Him and I had an ongoing Skype conversation for about, and Stan took notes, and then he translated the notes, or he decoded the notes from his cryptic scrawls. Actually came out quite good, I thought.
Is this the Dirty Enlightenment?
No. What's it called?
The Astounding Nature of Experience.
The Astounding Nature of Experience, and it's on Amazon. It's on Amazon, isn't it?
Thank you.
Operators are standing by. Call the number at the bottom of your screen.
It's on sale. Buy it now.
Beautifully couched to a question.
Do it again.
Get a room.
Sorry, did I say that? Sorry.
It seems like we're investigating reality. At some points, or maybe all the time, it informs sort of what goes on in day to day.
Yes.
And sometimes it's automatic, happening without recognition of it, and sometimes it seems there's a decision point where try to tap into that, so to speak,
Sure,
or
yeah.
just go back into your repetitive, interpretive frameworks that matter. And
that's just what it looks like at any particular point in time in your path. Sure, the overall texture and timbre of that will kind of change and evolve. Subtly. Yoga does not work obviously and explicitly. But you might not notice the transformation, or you might, because it works under the table. It doesn't work obviously and superficially. Inside out, you might say.
does it get to a point where the actions seem completely spontaneous in the moment, and there's zero attention to the interpretive frameworks?
Of course. And
they are, but there's a sense every now and again, if not most of the time, but the interpretive frameworks are actually.
Yeah, but that evolves. All that goes away. Go away. You see that the interpretive frameworks are just as spontaneous as everything else. Everything just happens. Thinking really hard and deciding really hard and thinking really hard and making decisions, but all that just happens. You're not doing it.
Right.
Just, even to say that you're doing it just happens. You're doing it just happens. So you can exert all sorts of effort, and there's no exertion because all of that just happens. Exert effort to exert the effort. And if you do, you don't have to exert effort to exert the effort to exert the effort.
But it feels different somehow.
But again, it seems very different at different, as your path of unfoldment. Yoga seems like nothing to how to do it. It seems like nothing at first, and it doesn't seem to be doing much. Maybe, wow, so there's a little something going on. Maybe I don't know what. And it's just good. It's intrinsic. It's automatic.
Peter, does this field, to use your word for it, like at different levels, it kind of it communicates with you?
Yes.
For like instance, I've been struggling with, because your teaching shows the truth, and I like resonate with it a lot. But prior to this, I had dabbled in like psychological conscious work to shift your reality kind of thing. Like law of attraction on steroids, basically. And like I'm supposed to go to this trip on Hawaii in 2 weeks, and then like left here yesterday. Like I just started doing random things. I was communicating that if I went, like there'd be like a plane crash, like I would find myself in the ocean, that my partner would die, and I would be alone with my kid, and like a single mom book would, like, is that just another interpretive framework, or is this like a living, intelligent field that's communicating? Maybe because I still feel like I'm separate, or
probably both. But this is pure intelligence. It is pure communication. It is pure meaningfulness. So is a meaningfulness that doesn't necessarily translate into human terms. But it is what it is and does what it does. It's interpenetrated with the mind's interpreting and trying to pull it together and make sense of it, which is unceasing. That's part of it too. It all works together. So you have to, in terms of practically, trying to extract divination and to extract, accurate intelligence. It's an art form, and you have to explore it yourself and find out the degree to which that's viable. But the basic point that yes, it is definitely, everything communicates and was pregnant with meaning and implication.
Take away from like this yoga, it's kind of a yoga.
No, that's an aspect of what you're discovering. Which is not mechanical. So what you're going into is pure consciousness, pure intelligence, to more and more vitality, more and more engagement, more and more implication.
Like you say, nonlinear. Like it was just one or another was just kind of unfolding,
Yeah, for sure. And experience is always that. I mean, that's every moment is like you don't know what's going to happen next. And here it is. It's happening.
The trick is maybe just not to like make a story out of that story. Like if it happens, great.
Yeah. And on the other hand, if you're making stories, that's okay too. I mean, no harm, no foul. All stories, they are stories by their very nature have degrees of inaccuracy in them. Degrees of inaccuracy. Very difficult to parse. But that's cool. You give it your best shot and do what feels right in terms of practicalities. If you get a hit to do this instead of that, then why not? Never been. I mean, on what basis do you seem to make decisions anyway? It just, I really feel like this is it. So, that's okay. If it feels like it, do it. What the heck? Maybe you're wrong, but so what? Wrong, in that case, wrong becomes right because that becomes the next step in your.
Right, and like how do you know you were even going to go on that trip in the first place? So.
Yeah.
Is
visions of deities or visions of isn't it all just fantasy though? Isn't it all just say you experience Krishna on a semi-regular basis,
right?
And there's a whole elaborate amount of feeling behind it, and
right.
all this stuff. These deities that we're looking at in the room,
right?
And then you build an entire construct around it, and then maybe an entire religion. And I guess my question isn't that a very destabilizing path? I mean, isn't it extreme? Doesn't it have too much potential for destabilization?
I'm not sure what you mean by destabilization.
I guess just lost in fantasy.
Yeah, well, that's always the case. You know, you can always take a right turn and get lost in fantasy at any point. Frequently do. To go back to your starting point, you know, so you have visions of deities. Visions of deities.
I don't.
Well, now let's just suppose there's someone that have a vision of a deity.
Right.
What a vision imagination is the presence of inconceivability. The problem isn't the vision, the problem is the interpretation. And the vision is itself a revelation of the nature of reality, because all vision is revelation of the nature of reality. You crap in the morning and you look in the toilet and you see the turd sitting there, you're seeing the nature of reality, and it's completely self to you. The problem isn't that. The problem is then you make a story out of it. Oh, this is Krishna. Blah, blah, blah. And then,
after a few weeks, yes.
I'm probably mixing my metaphors. Forgive me. All you Krishna devotees, please forgive me. I don't mean to blaspheme you. Anyway, to try to disentangle myself from that one. but the point is that at any point, always at a crossroads where transcendental reality is directly, and the mind is trying to split that off and turn it into something, turn it into a story which is not true or not accurate. That's always the case. Crossroads. And then in the next moment, you're at the same crossroads. It just looks different. And you never solve it. You never get to the point where, no, I'm not going to interpret. There's always, erroneous interpretation is always present. Impede direct presence. It does not impede reality. You kind of have to get used to take it that it comes with. This amazing transcendental reality, and there's the mind turning it into always. And you can't get away from it, but you don't need to get away from it if you accept it, because there's actually not a struggle or tension between them. Let the mind go, have its way, because it doesn't actually get in the way of reality. Oh, Krishna, great, Krishna's visited me, I'm special, Krishna has come to me, I should found a religion. So the mind's telling it that story and getting all inflated and being neurotic. Experience is present. It doesn't stop being present. It continues to be present, and in that presence is ongoing revelation. Let the mind do what it does, because the mind does it over here. It doesn't actually smear onto experience. It sort of happens in its own little bubble, or a little dimension, you could say. And basically ignore the mind and give it free rein. Schizophrenic experience for the yogi, because being wildly crazy like usual, and at the same time and being in with experience, and they both happen at once, and they're both you, and this is what your experience looks like. it's not, the trick is to not expect to solve that problem or to expect to find or anything like that. Just let it have free reign, because it itself is just a small event. So it's just not particularly important. And even if you get caught up and follow the mind, that's not particularly important, because you're not actually going anywhere. I mean, say you get carried away and you found your religion, and there you are, and you have this temple, and you're standing out front, and you're painted it up, and the whole deal. It's still, so the other can continue. Any context, living your life right, your life can be an ongoing train wreck. Opportunity for yoga. It doesn't matter what happens. Even living stupidly and doing stupid, insane things all your life.
I guess that's what I was talking about, destabilization.
Mm-hmm.
It's like living a train wreck.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people do. Life is life, you deal with it as best you can, depending on the resources you have to bring to bear. You're sort of a functional personality, or you have, intelligence and capability and so on. You're not going to go anywhere. And if you're not, if you're just sort of one of these people that just doesn't have that to draw on, probably going to continue too. But that's neither here nor there in terms of yoga. You do what you do, but it doesn't matter whether you're success or failure. It doesn't matter whether you hold it together or not. It's about. I mean, that's all fine. And if you want to keep it together, by all means have at it. But that's not really, it doesn't have anything to do.
I have this experience a couple times where people have had it too, where you wake up in the middle of the night and you may say you're traveling or something, and that I was in was like pitch dark, so I couldn't make out a single solitary form. And then it pitched me into a total panic, because there was, I don't know where I am. I focus on who even, I'm reconstructing it later, of course. But right. In that moment, it was catapulted into intense panic,
right,
of no orientation whatsoever. And I was just wanting to, with your help, what do you think is happening there? What is?
It's actually very simple. This is you're used to feeling oriented. You're used to relating to your experience in terms of your interpretive framework of what's going on. And a direct experience is showing you that experience that's not necessarily available. It's a training and playing with that boundary and discovering it's unimportant. Relatively gradual, so it doesn't need to be threatening. Jump into the darkness and not knowing and be freaked out all the time. But ultimately, that's where you go. Discover that these orientations are imaginary anyway. Safe because you know where you are. You really just lying to yourself. You don't really know what's happening. But yoga brings you to that gently, most usually. Some people, it's a little more exciting. Inherent in your nature, so that's not too much of a problem. You are definitely playing with that boundary.
I assumed that it had to do with the total stripping away of the interpretive frameworks.
Yeah.
But it's such a immediate and stark and unusual experience. I just wondered, look, it wasn't for me in that time seemingly useful exploration, because the panic just took over.
Sure.
Scrambling around the room trying to that. But if I could have been relaxed, I suppose, to explore, could have been a significant kind of.
Yeah, but again, that's not particularly important. It's best to do it. Start off with it gently. Do little experiments. Like the thing with the wall, where you're looking at a wall and all of a sudden you don't really know it's not a wall anymore. It's a weird dancing lights. Step out, you don't really know where you are. You don't really know what's happening. But it's gentle, and you can come right back. It's not like all of a sudden it's a absolute motionlessness out of a common a common experience of usually feeling related.
Yeah.
So you do that gently, and you become acclimated to it, and it becomes less threatening, comfortable with being consciously experiencing outside of an orientational framework. And as you become more familiar, it becomes less threatening because you discover that where I am. I don't really need to know what I am because I don't anyway. And even when I think I do, creating an elaborate narrative, it's a fiction.
I was once in a couple samadhi isolation tank where you're in salt that's supposed to be, you're not supposed to be able to feel the surface of the skin of the water. It was totally dark. It was really big. I couldn't find the door. I was trying to get out. Like right at the verge of excitement because it was so interesting and weird. And I had figured out finally that I had to just trace my finger around the whole tank on the edge to find the door, which I did. And I was going to like turn myself like the feet to the head. I completely swum around this thing, like something that was in a whirlpool over a course of a few hours. It was like the craziest thing. It was so much fun. It was so awful. And then they had a bathtub. They ended the thing by getting in the bathtub. It was a great transition. Fun. It was just crazy.
Yeah, and that's another way of specifically flirting with that boundary of being just of orientationlessness.
The way to do the flirting, it had to come at me.
Yeah, well, that was, I mean, with a samadhi tank, it's being forced on you mechanically.
Yeah. I just
no, but it's the same thing. Yeah.
So a year ago I went to this restaurant. All the staff were blind, and so we walk into the dining room and it's pitch dark. You can't see anything, and you're guided by a blind staff. And I was very excited at first, but the moment I walked in the dining room, like it was like, and it was, I felt almost like something was choking me, like because like it was this darkness caving in. And when they guided us to the table and I sat down, I said, wow, like, and I relaxed into it, and it was really amazing. Like everything tasted differently. Like they didn't tell you what they were serving. They want you to tell them later after the experience, like, what did you eat? I just discovered like different dimensions that I didn't. Yeah. I was so relying on my sight.
Yeah.
It was, wow.
It's a great experience. It's a great experiment. Yeah, that's fabulous. A lot of the panicky kind of feeling comes from the shock of transition. Like in that case, you go into a totally dark room. At first, it's like, I'm not used to this because most of us are used to orienting very heavily to our visual field. But you hang out there for a while and it becomes normal. If you become familiar with it, you orient yourself to the parameters that are available of what it is. And this is true not just physically in terms of, this kinds of darkness physical situations, but it's true in any context whatsoever. Orientation occurs across the board in all sorts of, degrees of subtlety and all sorts of different dimensions. It's not just a three-world oriented phenomena. Your orientational sense of who you are, your orientational sense of what you are, all of that is equally related or tries to be. And it's all equally. Yoga is the process of exploring that and discovering that it's wrong. And, sort of a simple, sort of a poetic way to put it is, you and sitting here, but you're actually no one and you're in free fall. So noticing that fact.
And it seems the closer that fact becomes available, proclivity to own comes up as well. The sense of losing and the sense of holding on are equally matched, it seems.
Yeah, always, sure.
So to kind of check out the flavor of panic, when you're in panic, it seems unavailable.
Yeah.
Checking out the flavors always. But at times for me, it's like, okay, now it's time to check out the flavor of panic. Where the fuck is it?
Yeah.
I'm just in panic.
And it's all about familiarity. When you're with a condition, when a condition first appears, it's like startling. But as it persists and you become more familiar with it, you learn the ropes. You get a feel for, oh, this is an interesting.
So we're more of the event than the person. And like, if I presume that you guys are real, kind of fractaling off on like this sequences of events, almost, I'm not the person, this whole like 3D construct or whatever be what's happening, including what experiences this person.
You as a person, things you're used to qualifying as you and your personhood are just a small random arbitrary grouping of these amazing transcendental harmonics, and is not in any way separated from or different than any other nonlinear fractal harmonics identifying as not you. There's only the one field of all infinite harmonics. The identification as me or not me is completely arbitrary.
It's just unfolding, kind of.
Just doing its thing. Just going on down the road.
So like the illusion of control, kind of. That would have to be a framework itself.
Of course. Oh, big time. Control's a big heavy-handed illusion of illusory interpretive framework.
Doesn't that go hand in hand with the feeling of orientation?
Sure. Yeah, totally. Because if you're controlling, you have to have something to control, and to have something to control, there has to be some conditions in order to do it. If you don't know where you are, what's happening, what are you going to control? I have this lever, but it's not connected to anything. Let me pull it and push it a few times.
There are these practices which try to encourage, stretching or experiencing more disorientation, whether it's...
Yeah, sure, that can be very useful. That comes naturally without needing to approach it, mechanically, just by looking at experience. If you look at experience, you'll notice that experience itself is not oriented. Experience is completely disoriented. The orientation is an imaginary overlay to the actual, let's call it, raw experience. There is no orientation.
But it feels very safe somehow compared to other environments that you don't necessarily, you could feel in panic.
Yeah, I mean, but unless you want to, you don't need to torture yourself or scare yourself. You can do this gently. The hard way.
That's what I was starting with. It seems like there's these that just encourage or really push you to do the hard way.
Yeah, for the thrill seekers.
Huh?
demographic, you know, it can be lucrative.
I'm wondering for you, I mean, I'm very inexperienced with this particular thing. When something like the train wreck happens in life, like neurosis, humiliation, or something, in the thick of it, if you have the wherewithal to see the larger field, powerful at that point. More than this when when nothing much is going on, you're just playing with it. I mean, it seems
life is always a train wreck. I don't know what's your life like. My life is a continual, ongoing catastrophe of disaster.
That's mine.
Jesus. You come from.
Let's say I'm more neurotic than normal. Because that's actually a particular.
I can go there. I can stretch it to that.
Yeah. I'm just saying if you can notice in that when I know if the times I notice that it's such a contrast to whatever I'm stuck in or seemingly stuck in. You know, like you said that you don't have to resolve things before you can go. You don't have to resolve something before you can go anywhere else, and everything's available all the time.
Yeah.
And just to notice that fact when it doesn't seem available, I think it's powerful.
Yeah, it is, sure. Yeah, well, notice it all the time then. That's what I recommend. That's what we're selling here. All God all the time. Now.
I found that the part that I call my soul has basically dragged the part I call my personality or experiences for personal growth.
Sure. To narrate it. It's, that's as good a story as any.
Yeah.
Comforting to think that's true.
Yeah.
So it's sour grapes are like, boy, my life really sucks, but it must be worth it. Yeah, life is hell. As I'm sure you all know.
Another gem we can take away.
Bumper sticker. Hey, that's a takeaway from the retreat. Life is hell.
Affirmation.
But hell at the end of the day is just unending weirdness, and this too. So hell. Let's knock off for one of our eggs here. And,